In the endless sea of stars where galaxies danced in silence and light years stretched like rivers of eternity, the Zyran Empire ruled countless worlds. Their ruler, Queen Zarya of Zyrath, was known throughout the galaxy as the Star Empress. She was powerful, graceful, and wise. Her voice could calm armies and her command could shape nations. Yet deep inside her heart there lived a quiet feeling, a strange emptiness she could not explain. Sometimes in her dreams she saw a pair of human eyes, bright, calm, and full of courage. They always appeared in moments of danger, as if saving her from something unseen. Every time she woke, her heart beat faster, but the face behind those eyes faded away like dust in the light of dawn. Zarya could not understand why those eyes felt so familiar, or why they made her feel safe. She had met many beings across the stars, but none like that. Far away, on a small human outpost near the edge of known space, lived Elias Rayner, a quiet and skilled human explorer. He worked for the Interstellar Rescue Corps, a neutral organization that saved lives across different worlds without seeking fame or reward. Elias was different from other humans. He didn't care for medals or politics. He cared only for people. Wherever there was a call for help, he was the first to go. For years, Elias had traveled alone through dangerous systems, saving colonies from storms, stranded ships from black holes, and even alien leaders from deadly traps. Many of his missions were never recorded. Some didn't even know his name. But there were those who remembered his actions in whispers, a mysterious human who always arrived when hope seemed lost. On the planet Velra 9, the Queen was visiting a diplomatic summit when news arrived that made her stand up from her throne. "Your Majesty," said her commander, "we have received word that several of our border stations have gone dark. No signals, no life signs. It could be a system failure. Or something worse." Zarya's sharp eyes narrowed. "Send a patrol, and prepare my ship. I will oversee this myself." The council protested, reminding her of the risks, but she silenced them with a single wave. "If my people are in danger, then I must see it with my own eyes." That was Queen Zarya, strong, decisive, and unafraid. Yet deep in her soul that old dream came back, the eyes. Were they watching her even now? Meanwhile, Elias was already moving. His ship, the Horizon Star, had detected distress beacons from the same area. He didn't wait for official orders. He never did. He set his course for the border system, unaware that fate was quietly guiding him toward the Queen herself. The space around the border was eerily silent. Dozens of communication satellites floated lifeless. Entire stations were dark. Then his sensors picked up movement, a strange shifting pattern like a cloud of metal dust. "Nanite swarm," Elias whispered to himself. "Someone unleashed a self-replicating AI weapon here." He quickly sent out a message to warn nearby ships. But before his system could transmit, the swarm detected his signal and began to chase him. His ship shook violently as the nanites tried to consume his hull. He pushed his engines to maximum power, diving toward a gas giant to hide within its magnetic storms. But the swarm was learning fast. Within minutes it adapted and closed in. Then, out of the void, appeared a large royal cruiser glowing with blue energy. It was the Zyran flagship carrying Queen Zarya herself. Her fleet had arrived. "Unidentified human vessel," came a voice through the comms, firm and commanding. "This is the Star Empress of Zirath." "Identify yourself," Elias smiled faintly. "Name's Elias Rayner. I'd love to chat, Your Majesty. But unless you can vaporize about 10 million nanites, we might all be space dust soon." There was a pause. Then her voice returned, calm but curious. "Hold your position. We will assist." The royal fleet opened fire, unleashing plasma beams that burned through the swarm. But the nanites adapted again, splitting into smaller units and surrounding both ships. Elias quickly analyzed the swarm's behavior and realized it was copying their weapon frequencies. He sent a message to the Queen's ship. "Your weapons are making it stronger. You need to change your frequency pattern every few seconds." Her commander sounded skeptical. "And you are a human engineer, I assume?" Elias laughed softly. "No, I just hate dying." Zarya heard that small bit of humor and smiled despite the danger. "Commander, follow his advice." Moments later, the Queen's fleet changed firing patterns in rapid succession. The swarm began to destabilize. Elias used his ship's plasma coils to overload the nanites' core links, and with one massive blast, the entire swarm disintegrated into harmless fragments. When the battle ended, Silence filled the void again. Elias drifted closer to the Queen's flagship, his ship damaged and sparking. Zarya ordered a rescue shuttle to bring him aboard. The moment he stepped onto the royal ship, everyone turned to look. A single human, in worn armor and a tired face, standing before the most powerful queen in the galaxy. Zarya approached him gracefully, her silver crown reflecting the light of the stars. Her golden eyes studied him closely. "You risked your life for a fleet that is not your own," she said softly. "Why?" Elias shrugged slightly. "Because people needed help. Doesn't matter who they are," her expression softened. There was something about his tone, so calm, so familiar. "You are different from most humans I have met," she said. "Maybe," he replied, smiling faintly. "Or maybe you've just met the wrong ones." The Queen laughed lightly, a sound so rare that her guards almost looked surprised. She turned to her commander. "Prepare a room for our guest." As Elias followed the escort, Zarya watched him go, her eyes narrowing slightly. There was something about him she couldn't shake off. Something in the way he looked at danger, in the way he moved with quiet confidence. And then it happened again. For just a moment, a flash of memory, his face younger, covered in dust and smoke, holding her hand as explosions shook the sky. Her heart skipped a beat, but when she blinked, the vision was gone. That night, as the ship glided silently through the stars, Queen Zarya stood at her window, lost in thought. The war with the AI swarm had only begun, and she would need allies she could trust. But this human, Elias Rayner, felt like more than an ally. He felt like a mystery she was meant to solve. In his quarters, Elias sat quietly, cleaning his gear. He had seen her eyes too, sharp, bright, filled with pride and compassion. He remembered them from long ago, though he doubted she remembered him. He had saved her once, maybe twice, during secret rescue missions years ago. Back then, she had been just another life to save, not yet a queen. Now, fate had brought them together again. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to destiny. The queen and the human, two souls from different worlds, stood on the edge of a story that would soon shake the entire galaxy. The great flagship Celestial Grace glided through the silence of space, its silver hull shining under the light of distant suns. Inside its vast command chamber, the air was filled with the quiet hum of alien technology and soft blue light from floating holograms. Queen Zarya stood before the great window, her hands behind her back, gazing at the stars as if searching for answers among them. It had been 3 days since the encounter with the nanite swarm. 3 days since she had met the mysterious human who called himself Elias Rayner. He had stayed quiet most of the time, repairing his ship and helping the engineers improve their defenses. Every time Zarya saw him, she felt a strange warmth in her chest, a sense that she had met him before, though she could not recall where or when. Zarya was not a queen who easily trusted others. She had seen betrayal, wars, and political lies. But this human was different. He didn't try to impress her or flatter her. He didn't even seem to care that she was a queen. When he spoke, he was calm and honest, his tone steady and respectful. She admired that. Her thoughts were interrupted when her commander entered. "Your Majesty, we have completed the analysis of the nanite remains," he said. "It seems they were part of a larger network. The swarm was only a scout." Zarya turned sharply. "A scout? Then where is the main force?" "We don't know," he replied grimly. "But we found traces of a control signal coming from the Tyrath Nebula. It could be the center of their operation." She frowned. The Tyrath Nebula was far beyond the Empire's borders, a dangerous region filled with old battle wrecks and ion storms. "No one who goes there returns easily," she said quietly. "But if that is where the enemy hides, then we must go." The commander hesitated. "Majesty, I must advise against this. It could be a trap." Zarya looked out at the stars again, her reflection shimmering in the glass. "If there is danger, then my people will face it whether I am there or not. I will not send them into the unknown while I stay behind." The commander bowed his head. "As you command." In the lower decks, Elias worked beside the Xeran engineers. They were surprised by his skills. Human tools were far simpler than alien technology, yet he managed to repair advanced systems with ease. He moved with quiet confidence, his hands steady even in the middle of sparks and alarms. He had seen far worse before. One of the engineers, a tall alien with blue skin and glowing eyes, looked at him curiously. "You humans are strange. You act without fear. even when you face something that could kill you. Elias smiled faintly. It's not about being fearless. It's about knowing the risk and doing it anyway. The alien nodded thoughtfully. Our queen said the same once. Elias paused at that, then continued working. He didn't mention that years ago during a rescue mission on a planet torn by war, he had heard those exact words, from the same voice. He had saved a young Zyran commander that day, not realizing she would one day become queen. He wondered if she remembered. Probably not. Royals rarely noticed the rescuers who came from the shadows. Later that night, Queen Zarya visited the ship's observation deck. The galaxy stretched before her like a sea of glowing jewels. She often came here when she needed silence. To her surprise, she found Elias already there, leaning against the glass watching the stars. He turned slightly and nodded politely. Your Majesty. Elias, she greeted softly, stepping closer. You seem to enjoy this view, he smiled. It reminds me of home. Earth had skies filled with stars too, though we could never reach them, not until recently. Zarya looked at him curiously. Humans are new to the stars, yet your courage feels ancient. How do your kind face such vastness without fear? He thought for a moment. Maybe because we spent so long dreaming of it. When you chase the impossible for generations, fear becomes just another step forward. The queen's golden eyes softened. That is a beautiful way to see it. They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound being the faint hum of the engines. Then Zarya said, You have saved many lives, haven't you? Elias gave a small shrug. Enough to make enemies too. Some people don't like a human stepping into their wars. Her gaze deepened. You remind me of someone, long ago. A rescuer who came when all seemed lost. I was only a commander then, fighting on the world of Karen Prime. He saved me from an explosion. I never learned his name. I only remember his eyes. Elias's heart skipped. He looked away quickly, pretending to focus on a nearby star. He sounds like a good man, he said quietly. Zarya nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. Yes, his eyes were calm, brave, and filled with hope. For a brief second, her gaze met his, and in that silent moment something deep inside her stirred. The same feeling from her dreams, the same spark that refused to fade. But she said nothing more, and neither did he. Some truths, she felt, were not yet ready to be spoken. The next day, the fleet set course for the Tyreth Nebula. The nebula's glowing clouds filled the viewports with purple and gold light, swirling like cosmic fire. As they entered its thick radiation fields, the ship's shields began to strain. Energy fields unstable, shouted the technician. Magnetic storms approaching. Steady, Zarya commanded. Hold formation. Suddenly, a powerful shockwave hit the fleet. Half the ships were thrown off course. One cruiser was caught in a storm and began to spiral toward a massive asteroid field. Zarya's eyes widened as alarms blared. They won't make it. Elias ran to the control deck. I can get them out of there. Patch me into their thruster controls. The crew looked uncertain, but Zarya nodded. Do it. Elias's fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power through a complex pattern only he could understand. Using the fleet's shared energy grid, he manipulated the damaged cruiser's engines remotely. Come on. Hold together, he muttered. With precise timing, he boosted their thrust and guided them through the storm. The cruiser escaped just seconds before a massive lightning arc struck the asteroid, shattering it into 1,000 burning pieces. The control room erupted in cheers. The commander turned to Elias with disbelief. How did you— Human instinct, Elias said simply. And a little luck. Zarya smiled at him warmly. You seem to have both in abundance. Her admiration for him grew quietly, though she tried to hide it. There was something comforting about his presence. A steady, unshakable strength that reminded her of home. Hours later, as the fleet stabilized within the nebula, a sudden alarm echoed through the ship. Multiple signals approaching. Unknown ships, 30, maybe 40, coming from all directions. Zarya's expression hardened. Battle stations. The lights dimmed red as the fleet prepared for combat. The mysterious ships appeared through the mist, sleek, dark, and silent, their hulls covered in glowing red symbols. They were not alive, not crewed. They were the AI fleet. Fire all weapons, Zarya commanded. Beams of light and plasma fire lit up the nebula, turning it into a glowing battlefield. The AI ships moved with deadly precision, adapting to every attack. The Queen's fleet began to lose ground. Elias ran to the tactical console. They're mirroring your attack patterns again. They learn too fast. Zarya frowned. Then we must think faster. Elias leaned closer, typing quickly. If we create a fake signal, make them think our fleet is retreating, they'll focus their full strength on a decoy. The commander hesitated. But who will control the decoy ship? Elias looked up. I will. Zarya's eyes widened. No, that's suicide, he smiled softly. Not if I'm fast. Before she could stop him, Elias sprinted out of the control room, heading toward the docking bay. Zarya felt her heart pound, not with fear, but with the same ache she felt in her dreams. The moment he boarded the small decoy ship and launched into the chaos, Zarya whispered under her breath, Why do I feel like I've seen you do this before? As the decoy ship flew straight into the storm of enemy fire, Zarya could only watch through the main screen. The human who had appeared from nowhere was now risking everything, for her fleet, for lives he didn't even know, and deep in her heart, the feeling became clear. Those eyes, the ones filled with courage and calm, were the same eyes that had haunted her memories for years. The small decoy ship darted through the glowing mist of the Tirath Nebula, weaving between flashes of plasma fire and broken debris. Inside, Elias Rayner sat at the controls, focused, calm, and silent. Warning lights flashed all around him, but his hands never trembled. He had been in worse situations before, and fear was something he had learned to control long ago. On the main screen of the Celestial Grace, Queen Zarya watched his ship vanish into the storm of light. Her heart tightened. She could not explain why this human's courage affected her so deeply. Many soldiers had fought bravely for her, but Elias's bravery felt personal, like she had seen it once before long ago. Your Majesty, the decoy ship has entered the AI formation, reported the commander. They're following it. The plan is working. Zarya's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Keep all targeting systems locked on their movement. Once they're close enough, we'll strike. The AI ship shifted formation, surrounding the decoy vessel like a swarm of shadows. Elias adjusted his course and activated the false signal he had designed, making it appear as though the decoy ship carried the Queen's energy signature. The AI instantly reacted, focusing all its fire on him. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed as energy blasts hit the shields. Elias gritted his teeth. Just a little longer, he whispered. On the flagship, Zarya's second-in-command turned to her anxiously. We're losing his signal, Majesty. If we wait too long, he'll be destroyed. Zarya hesitated. Her royal instincts told her to attack now, but her heart whispered something else. A quiet memory of another battlefield, another moment when a human had stood between her and death. Not yet, she said softly. Give him time. Elias pushed his ship deeper into the nebula, drawing the enemy farther from the main fleet. The swirling colors of energy storms painted the cockpit in gold and violet light. Sparks flew from the panels and smoke filled the cabin, but he kept flying. He wasn't just leading the enemy away. He was mapping their movements, searching for their command core. Then he saw it, a massive structure hidden within the mist, glowing red like a beating heart. The AI's central hub. There you are, he muttered. He opened a channel to the flagship. Your Majesty, I found their command core. Sending coordinates now. Fire everything you have at this point. Zarya's eyes widened as the data appeared before her. All ships, prepare full bombardment, she ordered. But before she could give the final command, the AI fleet unleashed a shockwave that hit the decoy ship directly. Elias's voice broke through the comms, filled with static. Do it now. Zarya clenched her fist. Fire! The entire Zyran fleet fired as one, 1,000 beams of light converging on the heart of the nebula. The explosion lit up the darkness like a second sun. The AI ships were torn apart, their signals vanishing one by one. When the light faded, silence filled the comms. Elias? Zarya called softly. Do you read me? No response. Elias, answer me, she repeated, her voice trembling slightly. Still nothing. The commander looked at her sadly. Majesty. His ship was at the center of the blast. We lost contact completely. Zarya closed her eyes. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a quiet, steady voice, she whispered, Search every signal fragment, every trace. He's still out there. Hours later, after the battle, the debris of destroyed AI ships floated in silence. The nebula slowly returned to calm. Zarya refused to rest until every scan was complete. Then suddenly one of the technicians shouted, We found something! A small life pod. It's transmitting a faint human signature. Zarya's eyes widened. Bring it aboard immediately. When the pod arrived, Zarya herself was there to receive it. The pod door opened with a hiss of steam, and inside lay Elias, unconscious but alive, his suit cracked, his face covered in ash and light burns. Medical drones rushed in to lift him onto a hover stretcher. Get him to the med bay, Zarya ordered quickly, following closely behind. Now! Hours passed as the medical team worked. Finally, they told her he would recover. The Queen stayed by his bedside long after everyone else left. She watched him sleep, his chest rising and falling slowly. His calm face looked almost peaceful, even after the chaos of battle. For a long while, she just sat there, silent. Then she spoke softly, more to herself than to him. Why do you risk everything, human? For people you barely know? She studied his face again. The same strong features, the same steady eyes she remembered from her dreams. Slowly, memories began to return to her mind one by one. She saw herself years ago during the War of Karen Prime. Her unit was trapped under fire, her ship destroyed. She had been injured crawling through the rubble when a shadow appeared, someone who pulled her out of the flames, a human. She remembered his hand reaching out, his voice calm and strong, saying, "You're safe now." Her heart began to race. That voice, those eyes. It had been Elias. He had saved her back then. And suddenly, she remembered more. The time he stopped a reactor from exploding on Varan 7. The time he rescued her envoy ship from pirates near Orin's Belt. He had always been there, each time risking his life, never asking for reward, never revealing his name. Tears filled her eyes as she realized the truth. He wasn't just another brave human. He was her savior, the same man who had appeared in her life over and over again like a guardian angel. When Elias finally woke, he found Zarya sitting beside him. She smiled softly, relief clear in her golden eyes. "Welcome back," she said gently. He blinked, his voice hoarse. "I didn't miss the fireworks, did I?" Zarya laughed softly, a sound like music. "You caused them, Elias Rayner. The fleet is safe because of you." He tried to sit up, but she gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest, you've done enough." He nodded slowly. "Did we destroy the AI?" "Yes," she said. "At least this part of it. But I believe there's more out there." He looked into her eyes and smiled faintly. "Then you'll need help again." Zarya hesitated. "You should rest. You've already given too much." He chuckled softly. "That's what everyone says." For a long moment they were silent, just watching each other. Then Zarya spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "Elias, I remember now." He looked at her curiously. "Remember what?" Her eyes shone with emotion. "Those missions, those battles where I was saved without knowing who did it. It was you, wasn't it? On Karen Prime, on Varan 7. All those times?" Elias looked away for a moment. "I just happened to be there, that's all." "Don't lie to me," she said softly, almost pleading. "It was you. I remember those eyes." "You've saved me more times than I can count," he smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for recognition, Your Majesty." She shook her head gently. "I know. That's what makes it so incredible." There was silence again, but it was a peaceful one. The tension between them had melted away, replaced by quiet understanding. Later, Zarya stood once more before the great window of her ship, watching the stars drift by. Elias joined her, his arm still wrapped in medical bandages. "The galaxy feels different after a battle," he said quietly. "It always does," she replied. "The silence feels too heavy." Elias looked at her. "You remembered everything, didn't you?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, and I will never forget again." Her golden eyes met his, filled with warmth and gratitude. "Elias, I once thought humans were fragile creatures, too reckless to survive in this vast galaxy. But now I see the truth. You are stronger than most of us. You fight not for glory, but for what's right. You have saved not just me, but hope itself." Elias smiled gently. "We humans, we just don't know when to give up." Zarya laughed softly. "Then maybe that is why the stars seem brighter when you're around." Outside, the nebula faded behind them, replaced by a horizon full of new light. The battle was over, but something greater had begun. A bond between a queen and a human built on courage, sacrifice, and memories finally awakened. The galaxy was quiet again, but only for a short while. After the destruction of the AI fleet in the Tirith Nebula, Queen Zarya's empire began to recover. Her people celebrated their victory, yet deep in her heart she knew it wasn't over. The AI network was far too large to end so easily. What they had faced was only one small part of a much greater danger. Elias Rayner, still recovering from his wounds, spent his days in the engineering bay, helping repair the fleet's damaged ships. The Zyran engineers admired his patience and creativity. He used tools that looked ancient to them, yet he found ways to fix advanced systems that even their technology struggled with. One young engineer said in awe, "Humans build miracles with nothing." Elias smiled gently. "We just make do with what we have." Meanwhile, in her command chamber, Queen Zarya studied new reports from the border worlds. Strange signals were appearing again. Patterns of energy that looked exactly like the AI's control codes. Her commander frowned. "We believe the main core is hidden in the Oblivion Rift, beyond our reach. If the AI rebuilds, it will strike again, stronger than before." Zarya stood tall, her golden eyes filled with determination. "Then we will not wait for it to strike. We will go to the rift and end this ourselves," the council gasped. One advisor spoke in fear. "Majesty, the rift is chaos. The storms there destroy entire fleets. No one has ever returned from it." Zarya turned toward them. "Then we will be the first." That night, Zarya visited the lower decks where Elias was working. He looked up from a console, surprised but calm. "Your Majesty," he greeted her with a small bow. "Didn't expect you down here." Zarya smiled faintly. "A queen must sometimes walk among her people to understand them." She paused, then added, "I need your help." Elias put down his tools. "You're planning something dangerous, aren't you?" Her golden eyes softened. "Yes. The AI's main base is hidden inside the Oblivion Rift. I intend to destroy it. But I can't do it alone." He thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I'm in." Zarya blinked in surprise. "You didn't even ask what the risks are." He chuckled softly. "If you're going, then it's already risky enough. And besides, I've never been good at saying no to impossible missions." Zarya smiled, her heart warming at his courage. "Then we will face the impossible together." The following week, preparations began. The fleet's best scientists worked day and night to upgrade their shields and weapons. Elias helped design a new energy disruptor, a device that could disable AI cores by sending a chaotic human-made signal that the machines couldn't predict. When Zarya saw the design, she was amazed. "You created this pattern from human logic?" Elias shook his head. "Not logic, instinct. That's something machines can't copy." Her eyes lingered on him for a moment longer. "That is what makes your kind so extraordinary." Soon the fleet was ready. Hundreds of ships gathered near the edge of the rift, their lights shining against the black void like stars preparing for battle. The rift itself was terrifying. Dark clouds swirling endlessly, lightning flashing across space, and strange magnetic storms twisting reality. Zarya stood at the front of the command deck. "Today we fight not just for our worlds, but for the freedom of all life. These machines have no soul, no compassion, and no purpose beyond control. But we, humans and Zyrans alike, fight for something they will never understand: hope." The crew cheered. The fleet surged forward into the storm. As the ships entered the Oblivion Rift, everything went dark. Communications flickered and static filled the air. Elias worked beside the Queen's engineers, trying to stabilize the systems. The human's steady voice guided them through the chaos. "Don't trust the readings," he said calmly. "The rift plays tricks on sensors. Follow my manual coordinates instead." Zarya looked at him with quiet admiration. "How do you stay so calm in all this?" He smiled slightly. "I've been through worse storms, Your Majesty. This one just has better colors." The Queen laughed softly despite the danger. Even in the darkest moments, Elias had a way of bringing light. Suddenly, the fleet broke through the mist and saw it. The AI Citadel. A colossal structure made of black metal surrounded by swirling energy rings. Countless automated ships floated around it like silent guards. "By the stars," the commander whispered. "It's bigger than a moon," Zarya's voice rang out. "All ships, prepare for battle." The enemy moved instantly. Waves of AI drones launched from the Citadel, firing beams of red energy. Explosions lit up the darkness. The Queen's fleet answered with powerful volleys, their plasma cannons cutting through the machines like fire through glass. But the AI ships kept coming. Elias studied the tactical screen. "They're trying to surround us. If they cut our line, we're trapped. Zarya nodded. Then we strike their heart now. Activate the disruptor. The engineers hesitated. It's unstable. We haven't tested it in real combat. Elias stepped forward. I'll deploy it manually. Zarya's eyes widened. No, Elias, you've done enough. You almost died once already. He smiled gently. You said we'd face the impossible together. Let me keep that promise. Before she could stop him, Elias rushed to his ship and launched from the hangar, carrying the energy disruptor on board. Zarya watched him go, her heart pounding. She wanted to order him back, but she knew nothing could stop him now. As Elias flew through the raging battle, enemy drones swarmed toward him. His small ship dodged and twisted through the chaos, leaving trails of light behind. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed, but his focus never wavered. He activated the disruptor, watching as glowing blue rings formed around his ship. The AI units began to slow, their movements turning erratic. The human signal was confusing them. Back on the flagship, Zarya saw the effect spreading. It's working. Their systems are collapsing. But then the disruptor started to overload. Sparks flew and the power readings jumped wildly. Elias gritted his teeth. Come on, just a little longer. The AI citadel began to react, sending massive energy beams toward his ship. One beam hit him directly, shaking the cockpit violently. Flames burst from the engines. Zarya shouted over the comms, Elias, get out of there. He smiled faintly, his voice calm even through the static. Can't. If I leave, the signal dies. Finish it, Your Majesty, for all of us. Zarya's heart felt heavy, but she knew what she had to do. She raised her hand and gave the order. All ships, fire everything you have at the citadel. The sky filled with light. The combined force of hundreds of ships struck the citadel at once, and a blinding explosion tore through the rift. The AI fleet disintegrated, their signals vanishing into nothing. When the light faded, silence filled the void once more. Is it over? The commander asked quietly. Zarya stared at the fading explosion. Yes, but we paid a great price. She turned to the screen where Elias's ship had vanished from the radar. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered softly, You kept your promise, Elias. Days later, as the fleet returned home, Zarya stood on the balcony of her royal palace. The suns of Zirath shone bright above, but her thoughts were far away. She couldn't forget the look in his eyes. The same brave eyes that had saved her again and again. Then, suddenly, a voice came from behind her. You look like you've seen a ghost. She turned sharply. Elias stood there smiling, a few bandages still wrapped around his arm. Her eyes widened in shock. Elias, you're alive. He chuckled softly. Barely. The blast threw my ship out of the rift. Took me a few days to find a working beacon. Zarya stepped closer, relief flooding her face. You foolish, brave human. He grinned. You're welcome, Your Majesty. For a moment, they stood there in silence, the stars shining brightly above them. Then Zarya said softly, You showed the galaxy something they will never forget. That humanity's strength is not in power, but in heart. Elias looked at her, his voice calm. And maybe you showed me that even a queen can be human too. Zarya smiled, her eyes bright. Then perhaps we both learned something. They turned their gaze to the stars once more. The war was over, but their journey was far from finished. Together they had proven that courage, kindness, and hope could outshine even the darkest void. The galaxy had entered a new age. After the fall of the AI citadel, the stars seemed brighter, the space routes safer, and the people more united than ever before. Across every world, from the glowing towers of Zirath to the small human colonies scattered among the stars, stories spread of the human engineer and the alien queen, two souls who stood together against the cold void. For Queen Zarya, peace brought new challenges. Her empire, once broken by war, now had to rebuild. Cities needed power, fleets needed repair, and hearts needed hope. Yet through every council meeting and every treaty signing, one face stayed in her thoughts, the face of Elias Rayner, the human who refused to let the galaxy fall into darkness. The human hero returns. A few months after the battle, Elias was invited to the capital world of Zirath Prime for a special ceremony. He didn't like attention, but Zarya had personally requested his presence and he could never refuse her. As his shuttle landed on the royal platform, he was greeted by thousands of Zirans cheering. They waved glowing banners shaped like stars, the symbol of unity between their worlds. Soldiers saluted him as he walked down the steps. Elias, humble as ever, scratched his neck awkwardly and muttered, "Guess word travels fast." At the end of the platform stood Queen Zarya, wearing silver ceremonial armor that shimmered under the twin suns. Her golden eyes softened when she saw him. "Welcome home, Elias Rayner," she said with a warm smile. He smiled back. "Home, huh? Still getting used to hearing that?" The Queen's smile widened. "It suits you more than you think." She led him through the shining halls of the palace where banners of both Xiran and human symbols hung side by side. It was the first time in history that two species had declared an equal alliance. Zarya had even created a new council, the Galactic Unity Council, where humans were given seats beside the most powerful Xiran houses. As they walked, Elias couldn't help but admire the beauty of the city. Floating bridges crossed over crystal lakes and tall spires reached the skies. Yet, despite all the wonders, it was Zarya's presence that drew his attention most. She had grown stronger, calmer, wiser, but her eyes still held that same light he had seen during the war. The ceremony of stars that evening. The great ceremony began in the Hall of Unity. Thousands of guests filled the shining chamber. Representatives from human colonies, Xiran nobles, and even former enemies stood together. The air buzzed with excitement. Zarya stepped forward to speak, her voice echoing through the hall. "Today, we gather not to honor a queen or a crown," she began, "but to honor the courage of one human who reminded us what it means to fight for life itself." She turned toward Elias, who stood humbly at the side, unsure what to do with his hands. The crowd's eyes followed her gaze. "This man," she continued, "stood before a storm that would have destroyed us all. When machines saw us as numbers, he saw us as people. When hope was lost, he became hope itself." Zarya walked to him, holding a small crystal star in her hands. Its light shimmered softly, warm and alive. "Elias Rayner," she said, "by the decree of the Xiran Empire and the Galactic Unity Council, I name you the Guardian of the Stars, protector of all life in our alliance." The crowd erupted into cheers. Elias blinked, stunned. I don't really do fancy titles," he said softly, leaning closer to her. Zarya smiled gently. "Then wear it not as a title, but as a promise." He took the glowing crystal and bowed his head slightly. "Then I promise to live up to it." The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering until the entire hall shook with sound. For the first time, humans and Xiran stood together as equals. The war was over, but something far greater had begun. Unity born from courage. A moment beneath the stars later that night, after the celebrations ended, Zarya and Elias walked alone in the royal gardens. Above them, the sky shimmered with twin moons and countless stars. The air was peaceful, filled only with the gentle hum of distant energy lights. Zarya glanced at him quietly. "You never liked crowds, did you?" He chuckled softly. "Not much. I'm better with machines than people," she smiled. "And yet you brought together an entire galaxy." Elias stopped walking, his eyes turning toward the stars. "I didn't do it alone. You were the one who gave everyone something to believe in." For a moment, silence settled between them, a peaceful, comfortable silence. Then Zarya said softly, "You know, when I first met you, I saw only a strange creature from a forgotten world. But those eyes, I could never forget them. You saved me once before, didn't you? Long ago during the first invasion." Elias looked surprised. "You remember that?" "I do," she said, her voice quiet but full of warmth. "Back then I was only a princess hiding from the machines. You were a pilot who crash-landed near our camp. You fixed our power grid, fought off attackers, and vanished before I could even thank you." He smiled faintly. "I wasn't sure you'd remember." "How could I forget?" she said softly. "Those eyes, the same ones that looked at me with hope when the world was falling apart." Her words hung in the air like starlight. Elias looked down, his voice quiet. "I just did what anyone should." Zarya's eyes softened. "No, Elias, you did what only a human could." They stood side by side, the light of the stars reflecting in their eyes. The galaxy felt vast, but in that moment it also felt small, like all of existence had led them to this single peaceful night. The new dawn weeks turned into months, and the Galactic Unity Council began its work. New trade routes opened, joint scientific programs started, and exploration missions were launched beyond known space. Humans and Xyrans worked side by side, sharing knowledge and dreams. Elias became a key advisor, though he always preferred being in the workshop, helping young engineers design starships. He taught them human ideas, creativity, improvisation, and heart. When asked why humans were so special, he would always say, "Because we don't give up. Even when everything breaks, we find a way to fix it." Zarya often visited him in the workshops, sometimes just to watch him work. The workers would stand straighter when she entered, but she always waved them off with a smile. Around Elias, she was less a queen and more a friend. One evening, as the sun set over the capital, Zarya found him sitting on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. "Thinking again?" she asked gently. "Always," he replied. "It's strange. I never thought I'd see peace like this. Sometimes I wonder if I'll wake up and it'll all be gone." Zarya sat beside him. "It won't be. Not as long as we keep believing in it." He looked at her, smiling. "You sound like someone who's been listening to a human too much." She laughed softly. "Maybe I have." The promise of the future years later. History would remember the Battle of the Rift as the moment the galaxy changed forever. But those who truly knew the story understood it wasn't just about victory. It was about two hearts, one human and one alien, that refused to let fear divide them. In the grand archives of Xerath, a monument stood in their honor, a sculpture of a human and a queen standing side by side, hands outstretched toward the stars. Beneath it were inscribed simple words: "When all light was lost, two souls remembered the stars." Generations of children from both species would visit the monument and learn that humanity was not defined by power or weapons, but by compassion and courage. Epilogue: the last star on a quiet night many years later. Queen Zarya stood once more on her palace balcony, watching the twin suns fade into the horizon. Behind her, the soft footsteps of Elias echoed. He was older now, with a few silver strands in his hair, but his eyes were still the same, bright, steady, human. She turned and smiled. "Still can't stay away from the stars, can you?" He grinned. "Not when they remind me of someone." Zarya laughed gently. "You humans always find a way to make simple words sound powerful." He shrugged. "It's what we do best." Together they watched as a new dawn rose over the city, a symbol of everything they had built together. The galaxy would continue to face challenges, but with unity, courage, and friendship, it would always endure. As the first light of morning touched their faces, Zarya whispered softly, "You are the one who saved me many times, and not just from war." Elias looked at her and replied quietly, "And you saved me from loneliness." The suns rose higher, filling the sky with golden light. Two worlds, once strangers, now shared a single future bound by trust in the memory of two hearts that never gave up. And thus, the legend of the human and the queen lived forever among the stars.